A man on board a boat woke up at the crack of dawn to go to the restroom, sleepily walking around in his boxers. Once in the small room, his world literally flipped upside down as extreme turbulence rocked the boat, turning everything pitch black as it capsized. The man could feel water gushing into the ship, scared for his life. He stumbled to find any escape or safety, but only found locked doors as the boat sank and settled at the bottom of the ocean. He miraculously managed to find a single tiny pocket of safety in the entire vessel. His life was saved by a couple of mattresses, a bathroom, and a bottle of Coke. But how much longer could he survive down there? One spring day, the Con 4, a tugboat, set sail off the coast of Nigeria. The boat's mission was to secure a large Chevron oil tanker full of gasoline, which was in the Atlantic Ocean. The 12 crew members aboard had several years of experience at sea, and this was a routine task, but nothing could prepare the men of the Con 4 for what they were going to meet. The crew of 11 Nigerian men and their Ukrainian captain locked their cabin doors and turned in for the night as they slept heavy rain. Dangerous waves and turbulent black waters surrounded them. Around 4 a.m., Harrison O'Connell, the cook on board, woke up before everyone else to prepare breakfast. Harrison was an experienced seaman who loved getting a head start on his day. First things first, he made his way to the restroom. At that moment, a huge wave slammed into the ship and turned it over, capsizing it. The force threw Harrison out of the washroom and tumbled him around the ship as water poured into its halls and cabins. The vessel began sinking faster and faster down into the sea. Terrified and in the pitch dark, Harrison groped around trying to find safety, but all the doors around him were locked from the inside. This was a practice to protect the ship's passengers and content, since pirates were known to raid the boats in the region. As they sank down 30 miles away from the Nigerian coast, the cook managed to find his way to the ship officer's cabins, which was unlocked but flooded with water, forcing him into a small attached room inside the cabin that must have been the officer's attached washroom. There, a miracle happened as the boat settled at the bottom of the sea, 30 meters below the surface. An air bubble formed in that tiny washroom with Harrison in it. The pocket of precious air was only about 1 meter wide, but it was enough to keep someone alive. For now, as he sat stuck in the dark, Harrison had nothing to do but think about this dire situation. The fate of his crewmates was unknown, but Harrison assumed they had managed to evacuate to safety, and perhaps thought that he had perished in the disaster. He was alone, and not sure if anyone was coming or if they would come too late. The water level was also slowly rising, but he was determined to survive as long as he could. He left his air pocket to search for supplies, wandering and feeling around the ship, and managed to find some tools and 2 mattresses. He stacked them on top of each other, rigging a simple platform that kept his body partially out of the water to delay the possibility of hypothermia. Still, it was almost unbearably cold, and Harrison was wearing nothing but underwear. It was pure black and noisy all around him. He was hungry and thirsty with only a bottle of Coke he had found to survive on. He knew he had to get out as soon as possible. The longer he waited, the more his air pocket was becoming concentrated with carbon dioxide from his breathing, and eventually he would not be able to survive. He tried to find a way out of the chamber using a rope he found to find his way back to the air pocket during his attempts, but was unsuccessful with no other options. He stayed there shivering and prayed and prayed. He was only days away from his 5-year wedding anniversary. He reflected on his life and thought about his wife, his family, his friends, and what would happen to them. 2 days passed without any progress, and Harrison wasn't sure that help was even coming. At one point, he heard what he believed were the sounds of biting a creature eating something in the boat. He was running out of time. Every breath he breathed out was filling his space with more and more CO2, which would eventually take his life. Was anyone going to look for him? Meanwhile, above the surface, a team of South African divers from a nearby oil rink were sent to inspect the scene of the shipwreck. But this operation was not a rescue mission. They were from DCN, a global diving company. and had been sent to recover the bodies from the wreck, since all the doors to the rooms were locked as a safety precaution against pirates. They had been told that all the boat crew members had lost their lives as they were locked in their rooms. 4 bodies had already been retrieved from the water, and Harrison's family were notified of his passing. Nobody had any idea that someone was praying for them to hurry and find him before it was too late. If Harrison was still alive, he would have heard the sounds of the crew reaching the shipwreck, 60 hours after the sinking. The humming of a boat's engine, an anchor dropping, and the paddling of divers would have alerted him that divers were on the way. But the JASCON 4 was a large ship, and since the divers weren't looking for someone trapped on board, it could take them a long time to reach the small chamber Harrison was still alive in. He had heard the sounds of potential rescue and was trying to get their attention. He used a hammer to hit the steel of the boat, trying to make enough noise to alert someone to the fact that he was alive in there. The divers were far from him, though, and he heard their sounds fade away as the divers explored the vessel, hoping to find the remaining bodies. One man, Nico von Herden, made his way into the officer's cabin and moved around the space and found the washroom, his light piercing through the black water to where little he knew Harrison was waiting. His time had been running out for over the last 2 days. So Harrison took no chances and jumped into the water towards his potential rescuer. He reached out to touch the diver's head, being careful to withdraw quickly and not scare him too much. Nico was shocked. He stretched out towards the hand he had felt, and Harrison grabbed it. Nico cried out to his team that a person was alive, and he held on to Harrison's hand to let him know help was here. When he rose up to see his savior face to face, Harrison started crying with joy, disbelief and gratitude, overwhelmed that someone had finally come. Rescue had arrived at a critical moment because Harrison's air pocket was becoming concentrated with carbon dioxide from his breathing, and he would not have been able to survive much longer, and was in the first stages of hypercapnia, a buildup of carbon dioxide in the bloodstream. The air bubble had kept Harrison alive, but being trapped in there for so long also put his life at risk. He had breathed in a dangerous amount of nitrogen, and the effects on his body from being underwater for so long were severe. When we breathe air, the body takes in oxygen, replaces some of it with carbon dioxide, and does nothing with the nitrogen. At triangular surface pressure, some nitrogen and oxygen is dissolved in the fluid in our blood and tissues, but when a scuba diver goes deep underwater, the pressure on the body increases some more. Nitrogen and oxygen dissolve in the bloodstream. The oxygen is used by your tissues, but the nitrogen forms nitrogen bubbles in their bloodstream. If a diver were to go straight up to the surface, that gas would be released just like when you open a bottle of soda. This can be extremely painful and fatal. To prevent this, divers has to rise from the water slowly and make any decompression stops along the way, which allows the gas to come out bit by bit. If the diver goes up too fast, the only cure is to go into a pressurized chamber where the air pressure matches the pressure underwater, then is released slowly while the diver adapts. Though Harrison had been found, the danger was far from over for him, as he had to be returned to the surface very carefully. Simply bringing him straight to land would have killed him, as Harrison would experience the severe decompression sickness known as the bends. How did Harrison stay alive for so long within such a limited space? People are still not sure how the pocket of air had formed or how it sustained him for so long. It's believed that the trapped air pocket had miraculously worked as a sort of diving bell, which is a chamber with an open bottom used to transport divers to and from the surface. The pressure of the water around keeps the air trapped inside the bell. If you've ever placed a cup or something similar in a pool or bath, you have seen this phenomenon at work. But still, wouldn't have Harrison run out of air quicker? One theory to how he survived concerns Fick's law of diffusion. This is a scientific rule that says that the movement of a substance from one area to another is affected by the difference in concentration of that substance in which the space that it's moving. It's a complex scientific concept. But in simple terms, it's a rule that explains how things move from one place to another based on the concentration and space available. In this case, the air pocket Harrison found in a submerged boat may have been created by the air diffusing from the upper parts of the boat to the lower parts where he was trapped. The high concentration of air in the upper parts of the boat created a flow that allowed the air to reach the washroom. It's possible that this flow of air helped him survive while trapped underwater. It's a theory, but the law of diffusion can explain how the oxygen reached Harrison. Alex Gibbs, a life support technician on duty at the surface, was alerted to the fact that someone was miraculously alive. He and his team put down an air hose into the room and gave Harrison fresh air. But there was another problem. Harrison had been so saturated by carbon dioxide air that the divers had to switch to a mix of oxygen and helium, which is not standard practice. Harrison was fitted into a special diving suit and helmet, which would maintain his internal pressure to prevent the bends, but he had spent so long underwater that he still had to make several long decompression stops. Nico was amazed at how calm the survivor was. The entire time, as they brought him up little by little, Harrison passed out, but he survived. At the surface, he was transferred to a diving bell under pressure, then a decompression chamber. He spent the next 2 days there, which was also an ordeal to live through. Harrison had recurring nightmares of his experience suffered from his skin peeling and a hunger that wouldn't go away even after being fed. He also learned that none of his crew members had survived. 10 bodies had been recovered, but one was never found. Alex cared for Harrison throughout his recovery, delivering food, changing his sheets, administering medicine, and communicating between Harrison and the doctors, officers, and managers outside. It took 3 days before he was decompressed and well enough to leave the chamber. Harrison was very grateful to be alive, but was prone to nightmares and would wake up in the night feeling his bed sinking. He swore to never go near the ocean again. 9 years after this incredible event, Alex was on a diving job when he met one of the divers and got an unexpected surprise. It was Harrison, who was now working as a commercial diver, though he had initially been terrified of going into the water, traumatized by his near-death experience in the ocean. Harrison had bravely conquered his fear and decided to become a certified commercial diver when Harrison completed his training. It was Nico who had presented him with his diploma. Harrison said that he is happy as a clam while diving and enjoys the environment. It's now fun for him. He feels like the ocean is his world and he is comfortable and relaxed while in the sea. He can dive up to 50 meters underwater. He is forever grateful to the team that saved him and will never forget the 2 days he spent trapped in the dark, cold depths of the ocean. Harrison has some advice for people. Those who find themselves in a terrifying situation like he did, the fear alone can kill you. But he believed in himself and kept his faith and his mind strong. This unbelievable accident turned miracle serves as a reminder of the dangers of working at sea and the importance of safety measures. To address a variety of situations, Harrison's story of survival is a testament to his will to live and the power of hope to face seemingly impossible odds. It's also amazing that he managed to overcome his fear and pass all of his diving courses, considering that his grades were probably below sea level. Based on my recent video about how 17's modding Xbox went too far, most of you seem to love it, and I just want to say thank you. If you love this video, make sure to check out my others and have an amazing day or night.